Hi, this is Kristoffer and from Templo devices, this is the Real Deal UXE. Real Deal UXE. UXE. Real Deal UXE. Real Deal. Real Deal UXE. Real Deal UXE. Real Deluxe. Real Deluxe. This is a distortion pedal. Templo Devices is a Canadian company, makes all kind of weird stuff and gadgets and such, so do check them out. The link is in the description. And to be clear, I'm not getting paid to do any of this or say anything or keep my mouth shut for that matter. Maybe one day I'll become a very big influencer and they'll send me stuff for free. But until then, it's all for the fun of it. So what is the real deal? Well, it's a distortion pedal, already told you that, but it's a very specific distortion pedal, mimicking or emulating or copying a very specific distortion sound.
Well, kids, you see, back in the days before there were any computers, imagine that. We didn't have any DAWs or analog to digital converters or hell, I'm not even sure we had electricity. Or fire, for that matter.
Anyway, if we wanted to record something back then, we had to record it on tape. Reel-to-reel tape recorders. And there were 2 tracks and 4 tracks and 8 tracks, and
we had 1-inch tapes and 2-inch tapes and tic-tac-toes and skipping rope and whatever.
And depending on many tracks you had on these reel-to-reel tape recorders, you would have the same amount of input channels. And you'd go from a mixing desk into these input channels. And these input channels, said a word a lot now, weren't supposed to change the sound per se. Everything that had to do with the sound came before that. There weren't preamps or anything. But you could overload them. You could send in the signal too hot, too much of a volume, and you'd have them with a VU meter, this needle going back and forth into the red, or you'd have an overload lamp flicking, going, you're too hot, you're coming in too hot. But since it was analog and on tape, you could peak that every once in a while. You could go into red, and instead of giving you immediate distortion like a digital recording would, you would get what we call the analog or tape saturation or tape distortion, which is a big part of the whole discussion, analog versus digital, as analog being warmer, more saturated sounding, more compressed, digital having more headroom, being more clean. But we're not going to take that discussion now. No, we're not. No. So this analog saturation, compression, and distortion would give you a very specific sound. And as with everything, if it sounds good, then it is good. No, it doesn't matter if all the lamps are blinking, because it still sounds good. So producers and musicians would start using this as a distortion. And this is where Templo devices come in, because we're mostly using digital recording these days. Computers, DAWs, all kind of stuff, and some people are kind of missing that, the analog saturation to it all. Enter the real deal. So the real deal is here to give you exactly the sound of an overdriven input channel of a reel-to-reel tape recorder. How cool is that? And not only that, the whole layout of it. I mean, look at it. It's grey. How cool is that? A grey pedal. And the words on here, they make no sense. I mean, like smooth and offset and there's no tape in here, but you call it tape speed anyway. They were just making stuff up. I mean, Real Deluxe, Real Deal UXE, Real Deal UXE, Real with 2 E's, Deal UXE. They put 2 puns into the name of this pedal alone. I mean, how cool is that? Templo devices, respect. So, talking about this pedal. This is the Deluxe version, which has 2 channels. You have a standard version, which is just the right part, the real deal. This is the Deluxe version, which has a left channel, an extra channel. I mean, how cool is that? It's one more, one louder, as Nigel Tufnell would say. Onto the right side of the pedal. This is a real deal part, the distortion part. Very easy to handle. You have an input gain. Even if you put it all the way down, it will still be a bit of fizzy, a little bit of crunchy there. Remember, it's a distortion pedal. It's not here to change the sound. It's not a preamp or anything like that. Pushing it up, you'll get to overdrive, then to distortion, and even up to a fuzz kind of sound. And if you push it all the way up, you'll choke it. It will literally be screaming at you to stop playing. You know, it sounds awesome. I'll show you. And the other big knob right here is the output volume. It's not much more than that. It gives you the chance to not overload the next device in the chain, or if you want to overload the next device in the chain, you just turn it up. Remember, if it sounds good, then it is good. Yippee-ki-yay. Then you have a 3-way switch right here. This is the shape equalizer. All the way up, it gives you full range, all frequencies. Great for if you want to play bass, or you get, you know, drum machine, or your keyboards, or complete mix, whatever you want to do. All the frequencies. In the middle stand, it will cut down some of the lower frequencies. Personally, I find it very good on guitar, for instance. You get rid of some of that low rumble, undefined lows. It's definitely the low frequencies that makes it overload. So you'll notice that the less low you have, the less it will overload and distort. And then all the way down, it will pretty much completely cut down all the low frequencies. So you can use it as a treble booster, for instance. Then you have the switch right down here that says limit, but it's actually a compressor. It compresses the high frequencies. This is quite a harsh pedal, so if you're pushing it far, it's gonna give you quite a frizzy sound, and especially if you play like guitar with single coils, it's gonna be quite harsh. And instead of turning down the tone knob on your guitar, which is gonna cut down high frequencies, this one gives you the option to simply compress the high frequencies, just turn them down. You still be having them, but it's just gonna push them down a little bit, makes it a little bit rounder. The one thing that's a little bit odd or different comparing this pedal to other pedals is that it does not have any on-off indicator lamps. Mostly have, if you turn it on, there's a little LED or something that tells you like the pedals turn on. It does not have that. But then again, as soon as you're playing and you're overloading the signal, more distortion, this lamp, big red lamp right here, is going to flash. The more distortion, the redder is going to be. So you'll notice quite soon if the pedal is turned on or off, and hopefully you'll hear it too, because you know we don't do it for the lamp, we do it for the sound. Maybe, I hope. And then on to the extra channel, the left channel of the Deluxe pedal. Remember, the standard version only has the right channel, the distortion channel, and the Deluxe version has an extra channel, which is actually the Templo device's Model 33 vibrato phaser pedal built into this one. So you actually have two pedals in one. And this channel is also very straightforward and easy to use. You have the top knob deciding the speed of the vibrato, and you have the bottom knob deciding the depth of the vibrato. And it's a very modest vibrato. It's not going to give you any psychedelic effects or anything like that. So it's very, well, modest. And at the bottom you have a switch. It says invert, but what it does is it gives you dry, uninfected signal together with the vibrato, and that gives the whole phaser kind of sound. Again, it's quite a modest phaser. It's not too spaced out, but it sounds really, really good. So the vibrato speed knob is labeled zenith and the depth is labeled offset. Now, none of the words on this pedal have anything to do with what the knobs and switches actually do. They're just taken from the original reel-to-reel tape recorder, which makes this pedal very nostalgic and fun. And then one last thing for the deluxe version, and that's the balanced XLR output on the side, which makes it possible for you to reamp anything you like, so individual instruments or complete mixes. Remember though, it's a mono channel, of course, so you either have to have two of these or you have to reamp channel for channel. Horrible. You'd probably lose about 3 or maybe 4 minutes depending on the music. So yeah, that's the real deal. Thank you very much for watching. This was the real deal from Templo devices. My name is Kristoffer, and if you liked it, please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. If you didn't like it, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. And yeah, and remember, if it sounds good, then it is good. Cheerio.